How you doing, guys? Scott Jansen here. In this video, I want to talk about how to find the unconscious payoff. Now, this is a term that I coined to go beyond the idea of just finding the root cause. Most therapists, NLPs, and coaches, pretty much all of them really, are taught the whole root cause thing, that the root cause is the reason why a client has a problem. But with that comes a lot of bad connotations. And for most therapists who think they're finding the root cause or know what it is, are really missing the mark completely. So we use the term unconscious payoff to add a little bit more light into what the real root cause is and what this whole thing is about. So how do we find it? Well, we're going to talk about this in the context of conversational hypnosis, but any type of therapy can work for this as long as you can apply the ideas that I'm going to give you to find the real unconscious payoff. So forget about root cause for now, because I'm going to give you a better understanding of what most trainers are trying to talk about but really don't know themselves. I want to give you this idea of the unconscious payoff. Now, the unconscious payoff is the real reason why a client experiences a problem or pain. So already that sort of sounds like root cause. Furthermore, we want to realize this, to take unconscious payoff to a new level. Realize that the unconscious mind has its reasons for keeping a problem. If the payoff is greater, the reason that is, if the payoff is greater than the change offered by the therapist, the unconscious mind is extremely stubborn and will remain the same. If the unconscious mind deems it easier, better, more satisfactory, and just has a better payoff and a better reason for you to lay on the couch, eat donuts instead of growing the business, that's what it'll do. Now, this goes beyond just the root cause thing. Sure, all problems start somewhere, but we have to realize that just because we find the root cause in more therapeutic terms, some people say, well, I can find the root cause, then I show the unconscious mind there's a better way, or I steer it towards a better way, or I reframe it. No, that's not what the unconscious payoff is. It's more than that. The unconscious payoff deems that if you don't create a better argument for the unconscious mind for it to change its mind, not for you to change your client's mind or the unconscious mind for them, it will remain the same. And this is a massive problem when it comes to therapists. Sure, they might be able to find what they think is the root cause. Then they try and change the unconscious mind instead of creating a better argument for the unconscious mind to make the unconscious mind change itself. You as the therapist cannot change the unconscious mind, no matter what your trainers do. You cannot steer it towards a better solution. You cannot give it something new. You cannot reframe it. All you can do is offer something better in the realms of what the client really needs and see if it takes the bait, so to speak. 9 times out of 10, it will reject the argument you give. And this is where conversation hypnosis, or ACH as we have it, comes in extremely handy, because we show you how to create that argument so the unconscious payoff gets changed, where the unconscious mind believes that it did it itself, okay? The unconscious mind is extremely stubborn, guys. It is not your slave. It doesn't do what you say. If it did, you guys right now wouldn't need to watch this video, because you'd be millionaire therapists doing what you want in life. But if you're watching this, it shows you how stubborn your mind can be. So if the payoff is greater, always remember this, if the payoff is greater than the change offered from the therapist, whether it be reframing, timeline, whatever it is, the unconscious mind is extremely stubborn and will remain the same, okay? So how do you find it? And all problems have a payoff. The unconscious mind has a reason for every problem, good, bad, or ugly, that you have. Realize this. When you start the therapy portion of your interaction, as you know, if you're doing ACH, we don't even do the hypnosis part. We start with the therapy. Realize that majority of the things your client will tell you are a lie. Your client can only guess as to what this payoff is. They can only give you subtle hints, and they'll be very subtle. We know this as unconscious moments. They'll give you conclusions, backwards rationalizations. They're giving you their unconscious interpretation of what they think the problem is. And hands down, that is the trickiest thing to decipher between what is my client saying that's a lie compared to what is my client saying that is purely unconscious. Yes, the unconscious mind will give you hints about it. Doesn't mean it's going to change. But we as the therapist sometimes go in, or we as the hypnotherapists go in, thinking that we know why a client's root cause exists. We say something like, all problems exist because of childhood trauma. I hear every trainer, and I cringe when I hear this, every trainer talking like that. Or every client needs a timeline. Every client needs a regression to solve their problem. And it's just ridiculous, this mindset. So your clients will lie to you. Your skill set needs to be, can I decipher the 99% of what my client tells me of being a lie? And what is that 1% that I need to pay attention to? That's, again, what we teach our ACH students. Realize this. Your client will have no understanding of the problem. They can only hint at it, then they have guesses. You will not know what the unconscious payoff is. In most cases, you get to the end of the session, your client will have a breakthrough in some respects, and you still won't understand it, and that is totally fine. If you go into a session thinking, you know what, you may as well quit because you're in the wrong place already. You do not know more than your client's mind, no matter how many certifications you have or who you were trained by. This is a big one. Your trainings will stop you from finding it. If you go into it believing that all problems exist because of X, Y, and Z, and you believe this, you will start to steer the session towards that. How do you know what a client's problem is if the client doesn't know what it is? How can your trainers tell you what your client's problem is when they haven't even sat with your clients, or in most cases, even seen clients themselves? This whole one size fits all thing gets ridiculous. And you know this is happening, guys, when you keep spinning around the same problem. Call this spinning around the issue over and over, or looping around the problem over and over. And you need to get more sessions and more and more and more tools, more techniques. You're going to endless courses learning the same techniques over and over with new fancy names and still not being able to solve the problem. This is because you're going into this already believing you know what the problem is and what the root cause is, or in this case, what the unconscious payoff is. And I'm here to say you don't. I don't even. And I've been doing this for a long time, and I don't expect myself to ever know what it is. What I do understand is these first 4 steps. The next step is ask questions about what the payoff could be, not solving it. That's a big difference, guys. When you're trying to solve the problem, you're already assuming you know what the payoff is, and you don't, and you probably never will. Ask questions about it. We say get curious. Get curious as to why a client has a problem, not how to solve it. If you go into fix it mode, you're now fixing a problem that you have no idea about, and neither does your client. So you're like the blind leading the blind. You're just guessing at that point. Step 5, guys, take your time. If you're in too much of a rush to solve it, which is never your job, if you're in too much of a rush to solve it, you'll miss what the unconscious mind presents to you. An example of this is, let's say you ask a client a question, they give you a response that contains 20 words. It might only be one of those words, or even just one syllable, or one sigh, one gesture, tiny little thing that happens so quick that you as the therapist should be paying attention to, while the other 19 and a half or so words are complete conscious fluff. You take your time. The more you take your time, the more the unconscious mind can express itself if it wants to. And that's another key. I won't talk about that now, if it wants to. But if you're in too much of a rush, the unconscious mind turns around and says, well, you think you know it all. You try and fix it. And I'm going to make it extremely hard for you because now you're pestering me. It's not this whole thing, the unconscious mind just does what you say. That doesn't exist, guys. You know this in your own life as well, okay? Follow the unconscious moments. If out of those 20 words, one of those words deems to be more unconscious, and again, you have to learn what unconscious moments are, what to look for, what to hear for, etc. I won't get into that today. We've got videos about that in our catalog. But you've got to follow those unconscious moments. So if one word out of those 20 is unconscious, I'm going to ask a question about that one specific word, or that one gesture, or that one look away and sighing, or that one heavy part of your breathing, whatever it is. I'm just giving you quick examples here. They're not the best because it has to be done spur in the moment. That's what I'm looking for. And I've got to learn to ignore, which is sometimes the hardest part, learn to ignore all the rest of the stuff that is an absolute lie. And again, even really good therapists can get caught up in your client's lies. You need to learn how to do this, guys. Number 7, I love this one, and this was drilled into me when I was a young therapist as well. It will never make sense to you, and it doesn't have to. When you come to terms with that and come to peace with that, therapy is so easy. I don't know what it is. And again, I went through this. I put myself in this place as well. I wanted to understand everything. It's almost like an intellectual thing or a bit of an ego thing. I wanted to know the why, the how, the who. I wanted to understand everything about my client's problem. And if at the end it still didn't make sense to me, I could literally turn around and say, well, maybe their problem's not gone because I still don't understand it. When I made peace that it won't make sense to you, and I'm okay with that, why is that the case? Because it might not make sense to your client, and that's fine too, and it doesn't have to. What I'm saying here is you may not still understand what the whole payoff is, but you can get better glimpses of it. You get like the big picture being painted for you. You don't understand all the intricate details, and you don't have to. It's like you're going into the place where the unconscious mind needs you to go. You may not understand it all, but as long as you're in that place, change can happen very, very quickly. Do not try and understand your client's problem. Do not walk away from the session thinking, I could have done this better, I should have done this, I didn't understand this, I understand this part. Don't worry about that stuff, guys. Realize your clients will lie to you. Your clients will have no understanding of their problem. Why should they? Remember, it's unconscious. Your own trainings will stop you. Stop listening to mentors who tell you that all problems exist because of X, Y, and Z. Ask questions about it, not questions to solve it. Take your time, guys. Slow down. Follow the unconscious moment. Ignore the conscious moments and come to peace with it will never make sense to you. And that's just fine. you don't become a better therapist by understanding your client's problem. I gave up on that a long time ago. And what happened? Results were extremely quick, rapidly quick. The more I tried to understand it, the more everything started to slow down because I was interfering. Okay. So that's how you find the unconscious payoff, guys. Again, we spend 3 days teaching our students how to do this. This is just a quick glimpse, but it's extremely important as a therapist to understand, again, even the difference between root cause and unconscious payoff. Big, big difference, guys. Stick to those 7 steps and results will happen extremely quick, guys. All right. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.